Hello, my friends, and welcome to the first May PLC webinar for high school dance. If you are perhaps tuning in for the first time, my name is Ellen Jody. I'm the dance director at Brookwood High School in Gwinnett County. Hope you are hanging on until the last remaining days of school. As of today, I have about 6 more full days with students, but who's counting? Then we have our finals, which are half days the week after. So the end is in plain sight. We are so close. So I hope you're wrapping up your year and finishing up your spring shows. Hopefully they went well if you got to have them in the theater, outside, wherever you chose to have them. This webinar is about exactly that, some end of the year activities that you can do. I have 3 for you that I've done or I have done before that seem to work well and serve a big purpose for my program. So let's begin. Let's see here. All right, the first one is just simply a reflection essay. My dancers always groan about this. What do you mean we have to do writing at the end of the year? They just, they love the written assignments, not. However, I love it because I use the end of the year reflection essay for a couple different purposes. First one is this is a reflection for themselves. How did they think they did during the year? What do they think they excelled in? What did they accomplish? What did they not accomplish? Did they achieve the goals they set for themselves this year? Etc. So really for them to just review how their year went and maybe look forward to next year in dance as well. Because most of the students I have at least 2 to 3 years, most of them 3 to 4. The second purpose, I use this for data for the year coming up. So I have some prompts for the essay that I'll go over in a minute. Sort of like what kind of things did they like, did they not like, what worked, what didn't work, if we're talking about the schedule, or we're talking about procedures, the way I do things. So I always use that as feedback for how we do things. And then lastly, I use this as an observation of how I am actually doing. It can be sometimes a hard pill to swallow, but I mean, we are lifelong learners as educators. So I sort of just try to read it with a grain of salt and, take in what they have to say. Because, what might work or what might have worked 3 years, 2 years, or even this year might not work for the kids that you have coming up. So that's why I always try to ask them a couple questions about that as well. So reflection essay. The GSE that it covers, depending on what you ask them to write about, I guess you could cover a bunch. But demonstrate critical and creative thinking in all aspects of dance. So you could ask them to critique a dance that you've done in your show. Generally for me, this essay is more of an all-over reflection rather than a reflect on a dance that they have done or been a part of. But you could, if you're asking them about the show as a whole or what their favorite piece in the show was, this would apply. Observe and formulate opinions about the quality of dances on the basis of formal established criteria. Again, the same thing. And then engage in self-reflection and self-assessment as the creator and a performer. So it covers that. And then demonstrate an understanding of creative and choreographic principles, processes, and structures. And then the other one I put on here for the GSE was demonstrate an understanding of creative and choreographic principles, processes, and structures. So if you are asking them to critique a dance that they did in the show or something that they watched another class do, then you could use this. All right, so my essay prompts that I have, I've formulated over the last couple years because in my experience, I can't just ask my dancers to write a reflection essay about the year without prompts. They'll, maybe it's just them, I have no idea, but they'll come and say, well, Miss Ellen, I don't know, what do I write? Well, I don't know what to write. Tell me what to write. So I've given them a plethora of prompts, and then they can choose from some of them. So on classes and schedule, how would they rate this class compared to other classes on their schedule? I'm asking about if our schedule worked for them, which we do Modern Monday, Tuesday Jazz, Wednesday Contemporary, all of that. So if it works, yes. What did you like about it? If not, why don't you like it? And why don't you like it, and what doesn't work? And then I always ask them if they have a suggestion for a different schedule. Again, these answers vary, and then they're all over the map, but just to get an idea of where their heads are with everything, it's really good. On content, so did we cover all the dance styles you were expecting? Are there dance styles we didn't cover that you want? What are they? Do you feel like you've learned enough dance styles to choreograph in that particular style? What dance style do you excel at and why? What style did you have a hard time learning? And then did you feel represented in our dance class and performances and curriculum? I'm trying to, have our basics, modern, jazz, and ballet, but sort of move into a bit more of cultural dances and trying to not put so much favor on those traditional dance styles. So that's where I'm moving with that as we move forward. On dances and performances, did you enjoy the dances you learned and performed during the year? Do you have a favorite dance? Do you have a least favorite dance? How would you rate the experiences you had during our shows? What did you learn from doing dances? On your progress and goals, what is the most important thing you've learned this year in dance? What was at least one goal, and did you achieve it? Could you have achieved more than the goals you set for yourself? And then do you feel like you worked to the fullest extent? And then I asked them to evaluate their work ethic. I think I have one more. And this is the one on policies and procedures. Are there any dance department policies or procedures that you think need revamped? If so, what are they and what needs to be changed? So that's basically, for me, that would be how do we hand out costumes? How do we hand in costumes? That would be just all kinds of procedural things. How I order t-shirts or how we do spirit wear or just literally that kind of thing. And then, as I said, asking them about me as a teacher. So I asked strengths and weaknesses. And then I mentioned that they can be honest. Believe me, some of them are brutally honest. So that's why I said sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow, but I like to hear what they have to say. And then I didn't put a rubric on here because, these are such personal things. I'm not as concerned about grammar and punctuation and spelling for this particular essay. Of course, at the high school level, everything they write should be grammatically correct, etc. However, for me, the purpose of this essay assignment is the feedback asset of it. So depending on what you want to do, you could put that in your rubric about grammar and punctuation and spelling. But I'm going to be honest, by the time we get to this part of the year, I'm done. So I don't really want to read these essays and have to go through and, do grammar correction. So that part, I don't even put it on the rubric. I usually ask them to, out of those prompts, I usually ask them to do one or two from each category. That way it should hit. And I think this year it was 2 pages, double spaced, so it's not that much. So that is my first end of the year thing that I do. Then the next one is a video project. And I know you're probably like, really? Are you mentioning a video project at the end of the COVID year? So I get that. I really do. I mean, I think I had Flipgrid fatigue by late August, so I didn't want to watch another video. But this project can be just about anything, a culmination of anything. And for me, this could serve a purpose of, one, having dancers create some sort of dance or anything that you'd like them to create, and 2, helping them learn music and video editing skills. I did delve into music and video editing this year because of necessity, and I guess it's surprising how many kids don't know how to do it, because you think this is such the technology, generation, and a lot of them don't. So now that I know how to do it, I ended up editing almost all the songs for the show, which included a lot of student choreography. So I was like, I need to apply this for next year. So I'm thinking this project could be a culmination of technique for your intro to dance or your Dance 1 classes. This could be student choreo if you don't add that into your spring show. This could be a chance for your students to pick a type of dance that you tend not to cover in your classes, like I say, like, maybe salsa or some world dance form that you don't generally do. And then they can, create a dance and video it. I haven't done this yet, but I really think that next year I'm going to use it for the music and video editing and just sort of have it a wide open project. Maybe mix the two. Like I said, I'm trying to move from the putting so much importance on modern and jazz and ballet rather than other forms of dance. So maybe I'll sort of incorporate the two, have them pick some other sort of dance genre that is not ballet, modern, or jazz, and then have some sort of music and video editing piece that they have to put in there. And again, if you, depending on what you decide is best for your students, it could be a group project. In my head, I'm thinking, well, if it's a group project, you don't have that many videos to do. But if it's a music editing and video editing project, then I would imagine you'd want to do it individually. So that would be up to you. And just to say, this year I've used iMovie and GarageBand. They work for me, but I know there's all other kinds of things that you can use. So, and then I just went through the Georgia Standard of Excellence. Again, you could fill in a lot of the GSE in here depending on what your topic is and what the actual assignment would be, but demonstrate an understanding of dance as it relates to other areas of knowledge. So explore the use of media and technology to communicate about and create dance. And then explore media and technological tools to enhance dance performance. So this isn't too in-depth of a project just because it could be so wide open. So just thinking on those terms for an end of the year, maybe a sort of fun thing that you can have them do. Where's my mouse? There it is. Okay, and then my third project that I wanted to go over was just talk about spring dance concerts. And I know we do these, right? So we already do them. But if I talk about my process, maybe perhaps it could spark some idea in your head. So I would love to get a discussion going about how you do your spring show, just to learn from each other. So I did just throw our logo in here. We just finished our show. It was the May 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. We did a 5-show run to make up for, the past that we haven't done shows, and we could only have 100 people out of 500 seats. So I think we pretty much sold out each night. So I think we served the community and had enough people come. Usually I sit down with each class and discuss the title of the show. I knew that I wanted part of the show to be, so usually the title of the show is a department-wide decision. But this year I had one class, my intermediate one, which is the level right after my intro class. And they were a very small class, and just the whole class melded well together. There were mostly freshmen, one junior, and so they were just really open to talk about this, and so this is what we came up with. We kept talking about, well, we want normal. What do we want the show to be? Well, we want the show to be normal. What is normal? So normal is, a showcase of what we do: jazz, modern, lyrical, contemporary. But then I knew back in the spring that a lot of my students would want to create dances about all the social unrest that had been happening during the pandemic. So I knew that I wanted some of the show to be about social justice, but I also know our community, and I know that would probably be a heavy topic for a whole show. So this is sort of, we bounce these ideas off of each other, and this is how we came up with it. What is normal, and then unity or division. So the first half of the show, it was almost like 2 mini shows. So the first half was literally just fun dances, whatever the girls wanted to do. We did them that way. And then the second half was our social justice piece. So it worked well. I got some good feedback from it. So that's usually how I do the titles and the logos. This logo, we have a social media person here at school, and I gave her my ideas. I gave her the title and what I was thinking in my head, and then she created it. So give her kudos for that. I did this just so I could throw in some pictures. This photo credit, the picture credits I'm going to give to Tony Rowe Photography. He gave us these for free. He came one evening. It's a long story how he got involved, but usually I have a mom who has a hobby in photography and who comes to do pictures for the show. So anyway, I just thought this was a couple pictures from our spring concert. So, okay. I know you, like I said, probably do a spring dance concert already, but I wanted to just go over my procedures and processes to see if we could spark some ideas and conversation. All kinds of GSE that we go over. Then this is your performing standard. Understand the creative and choreographic principles, demonstrate understanding of dance as a form of communication, identify and demonstrate the movement elements, model dance etiquette as a classroom participant, performer, and observer, and then apply music concepts to dance, and then the connections between dance and wellness. So a bunch of them in there. Why can't I find? There you go. All right. So I broke it down into steps. So spring concert, first steps. I've got scheduling is the first step. So my spring show has been on the same weekend in May for the 12 years I've been here at Brookwood. We end up making our schedule the February before. Not this year, but COVID. So we literally just got the schedule done for next year, but we usually do it in February. So it's set in stone. So that would be your first step, depending on what your procedure is at your school. If you're a newer program, I've known people to have to really fight to get on that calendar in the theaters. So hopefully you can do that and get a consistent date. I think it helps to keep the date consistent if that's a possibility. Technique, getting back into shape after holiday break. So it really starts, show prep for spring concert really starts in January. We get back into shape after the holidays by doing our technique classes, our yoga, our Pilates. And this is where we also start discussions on, like I said, the title and the name of the show and what we want to do. And also who wants to do student choreography and what guest choreographers from the Atlanta dance community do we want to work with for the semester. And then I can decide who we can afford to work with. And like I said before, we also pick a theme for the show. And I have come to really know the community and our audience in the last 12 years. And for us, we need a theme. So something to frame the dances so the audience and the community has a context for the show. Sometimes I have a theme in mind. Like I had said, I had the social justice idea in my head back in the spring of last year that I wanted to do. Sometimes the dancers just make it up and tell me what they want to do. So anyway, that's how we do that. I'm very intuitive about that stuff. I let it go with the flow. We'll throw out ideas, we'll vote. So we do it a lot of different ways, but I generally let them take over and decide what they want to do. All right, next steps, student choreographers. Now again, not sure how you do this at your school, but up until COVID, I had an application for student choreo. And I was actually going to start an adjudication process last year as well, where the students had to have some of the dance done to show me, and I was going to choose a panel, maybe another dance teacher, maybe somebody else from my school, another teacher, to help me decide which student pieces get performed in the show. But then that all went out the window. I actually tried to do it in the fall, and it just didn't work. It was just not successful. So I didn't even get to the adjudication process. I got to a Google form, and that was about it. So this year, with the failing of the adjudication process, I just completely went in the opposite direction. I asked each class if anyone wanted to choreograph, and I had so many students who wanted to. And I was like, whoa, this is going to be interesting. But I had students who wanted to choreograph that I never thought would want to choreograph. So it's all of a sudden, like, these leaders emerged, and it was very surprising, pleasantly surprising. I think they really just needed to express themselves after the year plus that we have had with COVID, pandemic, social unrest, all of this stuff. I think they just really needed to express themselves, and they did. I even took a chance, and I had an intro student want to choreograph a dance, and I've never done that before. And I just actually have never had an intro student want to choreograph, but she's good. And so it was a little bit of a not sketchy, interesting process, because there were pieces of it, of choreographing for peers, that she didn't understand, which I had to really facilitate. But other than that, it was really good. So my choreographers were both in person and online. Every student's process was completely different, but I think this in itself was a wonderful learning experience for all of the dancers. I experienced that when a choreographer got stuck, the other students would step up and give suggestions. So it almost became this group project in some of the classes, because, I had small in-person classes. And we included the online people as well. So, and some days we would just sit, including the online people, and make diagrams. I have never made so many diagrams. My whole mirror was full of diagrams of who goes where. So we would remember once the online kids would come and mix in for rehearsals. So, and then there were some times where I just literally, they didn't really need me. So I didn't even really need to facilitate. I just sort of sat back and observed and was here. It's like, okay, you don't need me. Great. That's fine. Although that's a good place to be. Just for future references, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do next year with student choreo, but I just wanted to let you know what is on my student choreo application. Yeah, I'm really organic and intuitive, so I'm just going to go with the flow next year. If I feel like I need to do an application, I will, but if not, I don't know that I will. But some of the questions on the form that I had were, how many would you like to have in your cast? Are you willing to work with the whole class? Because sometimes we'll do a split cast. So if I have 2 choreographers who want to do a dance, and we try to, maximize our time, then the choreographer A will get half the class and choreographer B will get the other half. So that's why I asked that. Please explain your choreographic process. How do you choreograph? Please explain your vision concept for this choreographic piece. What music will you use? Or if you use music, what music will you use? And then, how much of the dance do you have done for the adjudication? And that was the one that didn't pan out. And I was going to ask them to have a minute of the dance done and staged. So that's my process. It worked out great this semester. I don't know if this was just a one-off or if this will continue. So here we go. Let me move on. All right. And then guest choreographers. For my program, this is a very important part of what I give my dancers. They need the variety. They need the different choreo. They need the different processes. They need the different personalities to work with. And just the diversity of other dance artists besides me. I am lucky to have deep ties to the Atlanta dance community and can reach out to people that I know and beg them to work for a bit of a discounted price. The Atlanta dance community has grown tenfold since I was performing, so I reach out to people that I know and trust, who I've known for a while, and ask them to direct me to some of the newer artists that are here in our city. I do use veteran dancers and choreographers as well. I try not to ask them too much because I know I don't have a ton of money and generally can't pay them full price. But of course, now at COVID times, I know dancers and choreographers are looking for as much work as they can possibly get. But, and I'll just quickly say this year was a non-issue. Do not judge me. We had I don't even know how it happened. We had 27 dances in the show, and only 5 of them were choreographed by guest choreographers. This was the most student choreo that I've ever had. So most of the show was student choreographed, but we used a couple guest choreographers. And I know this kind of thing depends on your budget and your school policies, but if you can manage even if it's one person a semester, I highly suggest trying to bring somebody in. And of course, if you do use a guest artist, make sure you know and adhere to your school and district's policies for that. All right. All right. Volunteers, parent help. I know this can be a very hard thing to secure. With parent help, without parent help, I would be hard pressed to get a lot of the show done. Just some of it might happen, but not happen as smoothly. I mentioned before that I have a boosters club that supports dance, chorus, and theater. So my parent volunteers come through the boosters. I have ticket takers, which this year were really ticket scanners because we use GoFan, and that's a whole other story. I have backstage parents. I have concession workers. In normal times, we didn't do concessions for this show, and then a lobby manager. I do always plead with the parents to help out. I always say if one parent would help out for one show, that's all we would need. If I had the parent volunteer would be spread out throughout the whole department, they would only have to do it once and just one show. But what tends to happen, and I'm sure this happens with you, is that the same parents volunteer over and over again. So, I mean, I create good relationships with those parents because they're always here and helping. But I would like to see the volunteer pool spread out throughout the department a little bit more. Still working on that one. All right. Okay, show week. I broke this down. This is a picture of what I call my Dance 50-50 class. We have partner dances. This year in person, I had 6, so it became quite the little small group class. It was really fun. This dance opened our show. It was East Coast Swing. So I literally give the dancers the schedule for both fall and spring show the first day of school. So when a kid comes at me and says, I don't know, I didn't know about the show, I didn't know about the rehearsals, and I'm like, yes, you did. We did a bunch of after-school rehearsals last month running up to the show, so I could have chances to get those online kids in here and practicing with the in-person kids. It was a rotating schedule, so each class got 4 rehearsals, so once a week. Each of my 5 classes got 1 rehearsal per week. So I had the schedule on our online platform, and I had it up on my whiteboard. I had printed out a color-coded schedule in 2 different variations. I had it up there. And then some kid came out and was like, beside the board. He said, well, I didn't know about this rehearsal. Yes, you did. So communication about the shows and the dates and rehearsals is always good. The more the longer you can have that schedule up, the better. All right, so load in is the first thing. So this happens on the Sunday of my show week. We cable the lights and we focus and cable the lights. We bring the Marley flooring in and we tape it down. We do costume sorting and handout. I'll get to that in another section. I ask the dancers to bring a basket or some sort of container on or before that Sunday so I can put their costumes in that. I use my dance council on that day, and so they deal with costumes. I fit the costumes in a class a few weeks before, or a week, just depending on where I am with costumes. And then the notebook that I keep writes down who gets what and what size they get. So I also use this for costume hand-in, which I'll get to later. I always ask for student volunteers for load-in. I don't use parent volunteers on this day because it's a lot of heavy labor, telling kids what to do, how to do it. So I don't want to do that with parents. It's usually I put down 10 to 4, and I'll tell them if they show up for at least an hour or 2, I will take a bad grade out of the grade book, or I'll replace a good grade for a 0. What I have learned from the years is that a smaller, more able group of students for load-in makes it go quick. We actually did it in 4 hours right before our show last week, so we're getting it down to a science. Rehearsals. We do tech and spacing on Monday and Tuesday of show week. We set cues, space the dances, we fix any problems that we have on those 2 days. It's a really quick process. I wish we had more time, but we usually get it done. Wednesday is our dress rehearsal. try as I may, I have never done a full-on dress rehearsal as it's been done on show night. I always, stop in between. I always make them rerun something. So knock on wood, it's been fine. But I do have them in full costume and makeup and their hair the way it's supposed to be. So our shows, in normal times, we do a 3-show run. This year, I said, due to limited capacity in the audience, we did a 5-show run. It was rough. I'm glad we did it, but it was a lot. But it did allow us to make a little money. I'm hoping next year the audience capacity will be a little bit more, maybe half. Then I might try to do a 4-show run. Show day and show night procedures. The dancers have a 2-hour call time. Our evening shows are 7 p.m. and our matinees are 1 p.m. So call times are 5 p. and 11 a. I do split the classes up for warm-up. I do 2 warm-ups. So I split the classes up. And so this is really something that has evolved over the years. I used to do a crazy, technique warm-up, and they'd get them sweating and, all that. But it just, I don't know, it just started not working. So what I started to do was a bit of a yoga class, and not a full yoga class, but more of a just easy stretching with intentional breathing. And then at the end, I give them a 5-minute meditation where I ask them to visualize their dances and any difficult parts and see themselves doing the dances perfect for them. So that is something that I used to do as a performer. It was a habit before performances, and it really helped me. And I think it really has helped to focus them and make the performances more cohesive. So rather than a big old sweaty, Batma laden warm up, we just do some light stretching and breathing. Costumes, once the dancers get their costumes the Monday of show week, they are their responsibility until the Monday following the show. I used to make them turn in their costumes at the end of the last show, because I just, the more they have them, the more probability is that they'll lose something. But it just really became a lot of work for me at the end of the show and for some of my backstage moms. So I decided to suck it up and let them keep it for one more night. And so then we come in that Monday, and then they hand back in their costumes with the notebook that tells me what they have and what size. It does usually take a couple days. Not everybody brings them on Monday. And then I take them home and wash them. Some of the sequins and all that other stuff, I wouldn't say I don't trust people, but I would just rather do the laundry myself. And then strike. The Monday after show week, we strike the theater as well. As much as I'd like to take this day off, I never can, because there is no rest for the weary. So we come in and we unplug the cables, we take the instruments off the booms, we pull up the Marley floor, we clean the dressing rooms, and just clean up the theater in general. And usually we're on a really, really tight schedule because the theater has to get back in. And usually we have only 3 periods on Monday to do it. So I got a first, second, third period. We got to get out of there. But we do get it done. So that's what my spring concert show week involves. Lovely picture of me doing my curtain speech. So this made me think, my very first show that I produced at Brookwood, I was at a private studio before I came to Brookwood, and I was the assistant stage manager, and I always was stage left, and the director was stage right, and we ran the show from there. So I was like, well, I'm the director now, I'm going to run it from stage right. Once. I did it once, and it was awful. I was way too much in the thick of it. The dancers were high maintenance. They were asking me about lost costumes. They needed their hair help. They needed, asking me about where they stood, choreography, which does say something. Maybe I wasn't the best director back then and they weren't quite ready to do it. Or I had some flaws back then. But nonetheless, I couldn't do it. So that was the first and last time I literally stood backstage on stage right. From the rest of the time, I have been in the booth on headset. And I usually have either a theater student or a former dance student or someone that I can trust, not a parent, sitting on stage right on headset. And the students know that that person, whoever it is, I am speaking through that person. So they are to listen. So I have someone run the lights for me, and I don't like to do it, but I do run music a lot. I've messed up a couple times on music. So, and then the only other thing I do is, well, as I sit here, not the only thing. I do a lot, but I mean at the actual show. I always do a curtain speech. I introduce the show. I make thank yous. So, and then once I get off the stage there, I just run around up to the booth. So this is what I do. So I run the show, I call the show from the booth, and I do my curtain speech. I do actually usually wear dresses for the show, but this was our Saturday afternoon matinee. And we had another show in the evening, so I just thought, well, I'll go casual today. So, and then after show week, I think I went over cleaning up a little bit, but since our show is so late in the year, after the show is all about cleaning up. Like I said, we strike the theater and clean up the theater, but then the dance room tends to get completely trashed during show week. So we spend the rest of the week, which we're doing this week, after strike, cleaning up. We clean up the dance room, we organize the costume closet again. We don't get back to technique after the show. We've worked really hard. And then the following week, we will start to review for the final. Generally, in my view, with all the cleaning and the organizing the costume closets, we just all need a little rest. We've all worked really hard, especially this show. 5 shows, that's a lot. So we take it easy for that the week after show. So here is a recap of what I talked about for this webinar. So the 3 projects that I described were the reflection essay to use as data or feedback for the department. Hearing from the kids, not only a self-reflection for them, but reflection on how your policies and procedures work, how they think of you as a teacher. Then a wide open video project that could be used for student choreography or for students to get to know a type of dance that you don't generally spend time on. And also it could be literally just a music and video editing project where they start to learn some of those apps. And then the spring dance concert, which I'm sure you do already, but I think talking with each other and listening about how you do it, like how do you hand out costumes, or how do you take in costumes, or what is your curtain speech like, or where do you stand to call the show, or do you not call the show? Do you sit and watch an audience? Still waiting for that day. Hadn't come yet. So anyways, that's it. I will remind you to subscribe to the discussion and hopefully be a part of our Godot community. I will see you next time. Thank you so much.